All right, so we are live, and hello and welcome to those of us who are watching. And this is the second Emergent Leadership Series conversation. And this time we have with us Biren Bhuta. And just as a precursor to the conversation, the Emergent Leadership Series is about sensing into what kind of leadership needs to emerge through us so that we co-create a world that works for all of us. And there are two streams of conversation that are happening in this series. What we are going to be watching today is what's termed as divergence conversations, where we reach out to practitioners and talk to them about what their work is, how is leadership emerging through them. And there are convergence conversations where we sense into what is emerging through these practitioners that we've reached out and look at framing that into perhaps tools or models or frameworks that might be useful for us to learn from. So today we have Biren with us. Hi, Biren, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So the
Thank you,
tradition
Rukmini.
here goes, Biren, that while yes, it's very regular, I suppose, to introduce people through what they have done and what they do. Uh, we're also trying to shift the narrative in terms of connecting with people as who they are, and not so much about, and of course what they do is really important and we honor that, and yet it's also important to connect with each other as who we are. And so while I know that you've had a very illustrious career in a wide variety of sectors, from banking to journalism to CSR, and currently also actively working in the leadership space. I from the brief interactions we've had, Viren, what I've noticed and experienced about who you are is, I think initially the conversations I've had with your team members back in Jamshedpur comes to mind, and I remember without exception each one of them saying how much they look up to you as a mentor and as a leader, and that's something I do want to bring to notice. And also with our interactions in the recent past, I've particularly been touched by the compassion through which you act, and how the compassion brings in courage to actually translate things into action. So thank you for being that. And as we start, I also notice a few comments from people on Facebook. Well, I guess most of them welcoming you. Amit, Nilupal, Shreyas, thank you for joining us. There are about 17 people watching us, 18. So do type in your questions or comments, and we will try to integrate them in our conversations as we go forward. So, Viren, you've of course had a very wide career, so to say. How have you experienced your leadership shifting over the course of your life?
Tough question. But thank you first, Rukmini, and Exalt Solutions for inviting me and for providing this opportunity. Really, it's an honor. Uh, if I was to just look back and traverse all the things that I have done been or been at some places, done things, I guess I can glean a few lessons that I have learned along the way, experiences.
Mm-hmm.
One is to listen to your heart. Yeah, leadership that comes from listening to your heart. Some people may call it the inner voice. Gandhiji called it the still small voice within. Yeah, some people may call it the conscience or a spark or a divinity. Different people will have different names, but the bottom line is, can we listen to our heart and follow our dreams?
Hmm.
Because at the end, that's what leads us to discovering who we are, yeah, and finding our purpose and meaning in life. And if I look back, all the decisions that I've taken in my personal or professional life have been somewhere listening to that inner voice and being guided by that voice. Yeah. It may have meant sometimes that voice may have been some other noise and I may be misguided by it. But, at the end of the day, it's about having leaps of faith, isn't it? I mean, when you have to go from point A to point B, and point B being that purpose of life that you want to discover, and you don't know the path, yeah, and you don't know the mode of transportation, all that you can do is have a leap of faith. Yeah. So that is my first leadership lesson, if you like. Yeah. It's not a conventional leadership lesson, but that's my takeaway. The second is uh, just I'm inspired by this thing by Francis the Assisi, Saint Francis the Assisi, and what he said. It's there on my WhatsApp status as well. That first do what is necessary, and then do what is possible, and suddenly you will realize you are doing the impossible. Yeah? सो जो जरूरी है उसको पहले करो और फिर जो संभव है उसको करो और आप देखोगे कि आप असंभव चीज करने लग गए हो. Then magic starts happening. Yeah. And you don't realize how that magic happens, but just always sometimes taking that first step itself, there's so much of inertia, so much of insecurity, so much of uncertainty, but if you can just take that step, uh, many doors start opening. I've stayed with and worked with tribal communities, and one thing that my tribal friends have taught me is jungle mein. It's a very Kafkaesque type of a thing that they have taught me. जंगल में चलने से ही पगडंडियां बनती है. Yeah. Paths are made by walking. That's Kafka. So take that first step, and doors start opening. Things happen. So that's my second big lesson. And while there could be many, and that is also a element of some may call it courage, but in my case it has been foolhardiness. But for most people it is courage, it is fearlessness. So yeah, that's my second takeaway. And the third one is a very something which I immediately resonated with from The Alchemist, is to be very, very alive to what the universe is sending you, the signals that the larger universe is sending you. And how can we align ourselves to those signals, to those wavelengths, to those vibrations? Yeah. And many times I've realized that some random stranger has come and nudged me along a different path, and have from banking I've shifted to journalism just on ishara that someone has given me, right? And there was no reason why I would have done that. It was not there in my radar at all. But those twists and turns have happened because one has heeded to the signals that have kept coming to me. So yeah, I would stop there. These three major learnings or leadership lessons that I think I can draw from my own personal experiences.
Thank you for that, Viren. And as you said that, I was also very present to how challenging a lot of that could have been, given that that's not the popular narrative around leadership. So yeah, I'm also wondering what is it that you drew upon as perhaps fuel, perhaps courage, to be able to act on those three tenets that you shared.
Okay, let me say one thing. It's been relatively, I would say, a matter of privilege to be able also to be able to go on that journey. So I wouldn't want to discount the privileges that I've enjoyed growing up, a support system, an ecosystem, no commitments as such, no loans or EMIs on my head. Yeah, and I understand that these are dunyadari, that for most people these become limiting factors. For some it becomes excuses as well, but for many they are very real, they are very alive, and one cannot dismiss them and uh, trivialize them. But so of course I have enjoyed that privilege of being able to do what I have done. But you are right, it's not been easy at all. It's always fraught with a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of insecurity. But that's also, I guess, leadership. It's about, and today's times, the corona times have proven that we live in a very VUCA world. uh, VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. The world is volatile, complex, uncertain, and ambiguous. And the demands of leadership today is how does one deal with these four things? Because the one who will be able to deal with these four things will emerge at the other end unscathed. So yes, it's not easy at all. Yeah, even now I'm actually, as we speak, for the last more than 2 years, I'm actually jobless. And while it may sound cool for most people, I know that there is always an inner feeling of is this right? Am I doing things right? Or so there is always that vulnerability which is there. Yeah? And I don't want to say that no, and I don't feel that way. I do, for sure.
Yeah. And I suppose vulnerability is emerging more and more as a necessity for leadership and for leaders right now in today's day and age. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that aspect as well.
And have
So
we
I
seen our
notice
leaders? Have we seen our leaders being vulnerable? I don't think so. I wish they were more vulnerable. I
I
wish they
wish,
were more.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I notice a few people saying Johar on the chat. Welcome from Jharkhand. And there's a request if we could also speak in Hindi as well as in English. So, yes, we will attempt to do that as well. And Salil's asking if we will be able to view it later. Yes, Salil, we will also post a recording on YouTube. So do look up on either of our Facebook pages for the link. So you spoke about how in the VUCA world, we don't quite know what the response needs to be, and yet it is essential that we do respond, and we perhaps figure it out by trial and error. But it's important that as leaders we respond in some form. And in the last few weeks, I've noticed your initiative around fasting so as to raise funds for migrants. And for me, I was touched by the leadership emergent in that conversation around how you are being an example of striving to connect with those that are suffering, and also inspiring others to do that. And would you want to share a little more around what is the inspiration or the impulse behind doing that?
Yeah. So one is, of course, conversations with so many people who are going through that trauma of not knowing where to go and not knowing where the next meal is going to come from because of the lockdown and the sudden lockdown. Yeah, and that rendered a lot of people hungry and helpless. Yeah. So I was getting a lot of phone calls, and some of my friends and I were trying to see if we can do something sitting at home. So one thought that occurred to me, and this was a call actually someone had done for a different purpose, and a friend of mine, Amit, and I, did a fast. Only the two of us did it and joined that group who was fasting. And then a thought occurred that why not see if we can rally a whole lot of people to experience. For many, fasting is not something that people normally do. Yeah, uh, for some of us, it's okay because in the course of our work, there have been days when one has not eaten for probably the whole day, and there have been many days that one skips meals. So it was not so tough physically to do it. Also, we recognize that for a lot of us, we are fasting by choice, as opposed to someone who has to fast, who has to go hungry by compulsion, yeah, or in distress. So for us, again, it is a matter of privilege because we know, अरे ज़्यादा भूख लगी तो हम लोग तोड़ सकते हैं. Yeah, I'm at home and my mom, even when I'm fasting, moms being moms, she will come at exactly at 6 o'clock with a cup of tea for me to break my fast. And now that is all privilege, you know. But the idea was, can a few of us with sincerity, with a purity of intent, can we stand with people who are undergoing this? It is not something against something, but it is something for, you know, it is an act for, in solidarity with people, right? And not a statement against an establishment or a process or a system. So that was the initial motive or inspiration to do this. Of course, then when one is doing it, then to motivate many who would never have done that, who would be afraid to try it out. And I got so many responses saying that we have never done it, but if our fasting for a day can help someone to be fed, then we would love to do it. And that was a motivation. So what works for different people is different things, and so be it. And there's no value judgment in that. So then it led to supporting people to be given some support in terms of food and rations. And increasingly now, the conversation that I think, since it's a group of people who are aligned and who are thinking along the same lines and who are in that contemplative, meditative space, to see if we can co-create within ourselves an idea of the future that we want. So it's also about an emergent leadership that this is driving at, this is converging towards, that can we co-create a future that we all want to see. Like Eisenstein said, a future that our hearts know that a beautiful world is possible, right? An alternative beautiful world is possible. So that's really the idea, the stimulus, and the thought process behind this fast.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to highlight that, Biren, is because very often the assumption around leadership is that I need to be designated as a leader in order to perform leadership, so to say. And it's so important to really break that assumption and to say that leadership is about response, and it's really not about a certain standing in a hierarchy of any sort. And each of us in our own ways has opportunities for leadership wherever we are in our lives, regardless of our age or gender or race or any other demographic factor for that matter.
Absolutely. So leadership, to be a leader, you don't need 50,000 people in a rally in front of you. I think each one of us in our individual lives can demonstrate leadership. It's really the Hindi, इसका अगर हिंदी में leadership को अगर हम translate करें तो सही उसका भावार्थ निकलता है नेतृत्व. Netrutva, as opposed to the more commonly understood word for leadership, which is netagiri. So Netrutva, as opposed to netagiri, is probably what is the need of the hour. And Netrutva can be in thought, can be in action, can be in speech, can be in various forms, in the way we just live and in the way we are. That's leadership at a personal level. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess my first constituency is myself, right? How do I lead myself, my thoughts, my emotions, my habits, my routines? And if I'm able to lead that, then perhaps that attitude is transferable to any other constituency I might want to lead.
Absolutely, and I'm associated with a movement called Initiatives of Change. And the fundamental premise of that movement is if each one of us embodies and lives this leadership at a deep personal level, then the job is done. It spreads. It has a huge power of transformation of the self, and due to the transformation of self, transformation of everything around you, magic starts to happen in the entire ecosystem. Just all it takes sometimes is just one individual to demonstrate leadership, and Gandhiji was a great example of that. And if I may not remember verbatim, but he said something beautiful, that the strength of a soul is enough to defy a whole world in arms against it. It's just that strength of a soul. That's it that is required.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have seen that in history. We have seen it over and over again. All it takes is just a few individuals to change the course of history. They have really changed the course of mankind just by the strength of their personal leadership.
Yeah.
But that has to be deep, that has to be sincere, that has to come from some wellspring, some deep within,
Yeah.
only that. Yeah.
Which I would very much like to believe is available and accessible to all of us should we choose to access it. Yeah. I
And then the
noticed
problems
that.
of the and then the problems of the world will also disappear, because if you are so aligned, if there's a synchronicity within, that alignment within, then your relationships with others will automatically be good. Your relationship with the environment, with the ecosystem, will automatically be good. Yeah, because you are aligned, you are accessing, as you said, you are accessing that leadership from within, from that deep core. Everything else will be a corollary of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry,
I
I'm not
noticed.
speaking Hindi, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my fault as well. I tend to go into default English. I noticed Ravindra Rao's comment, which says a macho image is the hallmark of today's leaders, and how can we build real leadership, real leaders who see that being vulnerable is not a weakness. And I guess that's a good segue to also my next question, Biren, around your initiative of the leadership school that seems to be currently in the womb, so to say. What would you want to share about that?
Yeah, thanks for using that in the womb. It's been in the womb for a very long time now, so I'm sure something good will happen out of it. Thank you for asking that question. This is a dream that some people at Initiatives of Change had, and I feel very fortunate to be part of that dream and part of that journey. So the idea comes from the fact that actually, as you also pointed out, there is a crisis of leadership, a vacuum of leadership in our personal lives to begin with, and then in our communities, and then at a meta level, societies, countries, the nation state, the earth as a whole. And we see that alignment somewhere is lost with ourselves, with our with others, and with the environment. And so, can we have leadership tomorrow, in the future, which, as I said earlier, is guided by that inner core, by that inner voice? Yeah, and if it's guided by that inner voice, and if you have the courage to also walk along that path, because it's not an easy path, as we discussed earlier. It has a lot of repercussions. As Dr. Rao said, being vulnerable could be seen as a sign of weakness. So it's not an easy thing to walk along. But can we build that leadership which has the courage and the fearlessness to walk on that path? As Guru Nanak said, Nirbhay Nirbair, yeah, without bhay. If we can walk on that path, if we can overcome, and the narratives in the world today are of greed, of hatred, and of violence. And if we can overcome this with love and compassion, And if leadership comes from that space of love and compassion, yeah. And when you have love and compassion, service is a very automatic response. You will end up doing service. You will end up doing seva because it comes from love and compassion. Yeah, whether it was Albert Schweitzer or whether it was Mother Teresa, or you see people who come from that space, तो उनके लिए सेवा बहुत natural है, क्योंकि वो जगह से आते हैं. Leadership, as I mentioned earlier, also which has the ability and the wisdom and the skill set to deal with the VUCA world that we are living in today. Yeah, leadership that can do that very tightrope walk that एक नटनी का जो नाच होता है, which is a very balancing act. How do I hold different paradoxes together? I am on this mythological battlefield, which is out there, but it is also within me. The Kurukshetra is also within me. And do I take this side or that? And it's always a dilemma, and you're on the horns of that dilemma. And how do you navigate that? Yeah. And most importantly, a leadership that has which accesses that core and hence has that wisdom to see the oneness of things. Because if I see you as different, then I will treat you differently. But if I see you as part of the same, as one cosmic or universal consciousness or energy, and it's easier said than done. For me, it's very easy to say it, but I know many times I find myself checking my own prejudices and my own biases and my own prejudgments about people. ये ऐसे ही होंगे, ये वैसे ही होंगे, ये ऐसे बोल रहा है तो ऐसे ही होगा. So those things are there, but when you notice it and when you witness it, then you can do something about it, as long as you're mindful about it, right? So can we have this type of a leadership, and which is so important to be able to solve, and not in isolation but as a collective. So I know your favorite theme is the hero's journey, but as you also mentioned that it is not an individual journey. How can that individual journey be a collective journey, and can we take people along on that journey? So we need that type of leadership in today's world to be able to solve some of the more pressing socio-political, environmental, and I dare say even the spiritual challenges of our times. So it is in that context and that background that we have planned this leadership school, and hopefully we should be able to launch this program by the end of this calendar year or beginning of early next year. A little bit of it has been disrupted because of the corona, but when we are ready to share more, we'll probably come online and share more about it. But I thought I'll give this as a teaser, as a flavor to some of our viewers. Yeah.
And I know you're working on leaders who can lead communities and societies going forward in that school. और एक सवाल है कमेंट में कि एक लीडर की सबसे बड़ी भूमिका क्या होनी चाहिए. And I think we can tie it to saying आगे चलकर अभी जो हमारी स्थिति है as a world, और जिस तरह की दुनिया हम बनाना चाहते हैं, उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक लीडर की भूमिका क्या होनी चाहिए? What do you think of that?
Yeah, so as I just answered, as I just replied, कि ये सारी चीज़ें बहुत अहम हो जाती है कि लीडर वो हो जो कहीं ना कहीं अपने आप से पहले बहुत ही कनेक्टेड हो. अगर वो अपने आप से कनेक्टेड हो और अपने अंतरात्मा की आवाज़ सुनने में एक क्षमता हो उसकी, तो फिर और उसी से वो गाइड होता है, तो फिर सारे फसाद की जो जड़ें हैं वो वहीं पर सॉल्व हो जाती है, क्योंकि उसके रिश्ते खुद के साथ, समाज के साथ और ये पृथ्वी के साथ, ये इकोसिस्टम परिवेश के साथ जो रिश्ते हैं वो अपने आप सुधर जाएंगे, और वो ऐसा कुछ गलत करेगा ही नहीं जिसमें खुद को हानि हो, दूसरों को हानि हो और धरती को हानि हो. तो ये मुझे लगता है आज कल के लिए पोस्ट कोरोना वर्ल्ड में ये लीडरशिप की सबसे बड़ी मांग होगी. मैं और एक चीज जोड़ना चाहता हूँ जो मैं पहले अंग्रेजी में नहीं बोला. मुझे लगता है दो चीज से मैं स्पेशली आकर्षित हूँ. आई एम मोर अट्रैक्टेड टुवर्ड्स टू थिंग्स. वन इज टू रियली कंटेम्परराइज Gandhi ji and look at him from a contemporary lens. Yeah, because all the stuff that he said 100 years back, I find it absolutely relevant and all the more relevant now post Corona. Yeah. And I was a bit happy when I heard the Prime Minister speak the other day, at least when he started off speaking about Atmanirbharta, and he spoke about local, and he spoke about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. Of course, uske baad it went on a different track, and I thought, oh, we have missed this golden opportunity. But when he started, I thought, wow, probably the sun has risen differently. I believe that Gandhi is something that we may all want to borrow. We may have our problems with him, and I don't think मैं नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि उनको हमको ऐसे कोई पेडेस्टल पे रखना चाहिए या पूजा करनी चाहिए. We don't need to deify him, but can we very, very objectively look at Gandhi and see whatever we find relevant and applicable, let's at least try and internalize it. उसको हम आत्मसात कैसे कर सकते हैं अपने खुद के निजी जीवन में और समाज के लिए भी. उनका जो इकोनॉमिक्स था, गांधीयन इकोनॉमिक्स था, उनकी जो सोच थी कम्युनिटी के बारे में, उनका जो सोच था राष्ट्र के बारे में और लोकतंत्र के बारे में. So that is one. And गांधी जी है इसलिए विनोबा का नाम लेना भी मुझे लगता है relevant है, because विनोबा जी also talked about what we do not need is Rajniti. We need Lokaniti as opposed to Rajaniti. Yeah. And I'm particularly inspired by one thing that Vinoba said, that the entire purpose of my life is nothing but a union of hearts. सिर्फ दिलों को जोड़ना है. क्या हमारे लीडर्स ये काम करते हैं आज? हम सिर्फ तोड़ने की बात करते हैं, चाहे हमारे पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स हो या धार्मिक लीडर्स हो या कोई भी सामाजिक लीडर्स हो, हम तोड़ने की बात करते हैं. ही टॉक्ड अबाउट यूनियन ऑफ हार्ट्स. तो एक ये गांधी को मैं समझता हूँ बहुत रेलेवेंट है. और दूसरा मुझे लगता है कि क्या हम दुनिया के आदिवासियों के साथ से हम कुछ सीख सकते हैं, बिकॉज अगेन लॉट ऑफ very, very relevant things for today and for tomorrow can be found in indigenous worldviews, whether it's our relationship with nature and our alignment with nature, or whether it is about democracy and really deep and true democracy, whether it is the sense of community, samuhikta, one for all for one. So these are beautiful lessons that we can learn from our tribal friends. So on the one hand, Gandhi, Vinoba, and by saying Gandhi, Vinoba, I'm not saying that the others don't matter. Of course, Marx and Tagore and Socrates and Ambedkar and everyone we can learn from, but particularly Gandhi, Vinoba, and the Adivasi worldview. If we can converge this, आई बिलीव ऐसी लीडरशिप मुझे लगता है आने वाले समय में बहुत ही प्रासंगिक रहेगी, बहुत ही रेलेवेंट रहेगी, बहुत ही मुझे लगता है अनिवार्य भी रहेगी, इम्पेरेटिव भी होगा.
And I see an interesting question there, as you say that what I'm picking up from you, Viren, is that the models of leadership or the kind of leadership that is needed in the world now is already present. Perhaps it's perhaps about accessing it consciously and spreading it, right? And a question by Jayesh Jain talks about, should I try to become a leader of 5 people or 50 or 5,000 people or the whole world? And to me, that speaks a lot to this delusion of scale that we seem to have been romancing with, right? About everything has to be scaled up. And so everything from a startup conversation to how things are to be manufactured, to how countries are to be governed and processes are to be standardized, everything seems to be about scale. And that is almost becoming a toxic narrative right now. And how would you respond to that with your perspective on leadership?
So it is also very seductive, na, Rukmini. we've all been taught to, and the popular media, it keeps bombarding us with that. So I when I used to work in a formal job, for me also scale was important. Now with the benefit of hindsight and wisdom from some elders, and I particularly like to mention one Naga elder, Dr. Nikitu Irelu from Nagaland. Uh, I distinctly remember him saying that, whatever we do, let's not even expect the results in our own lifetime. Let's not worry about that. The idea is to keep the process clean. hmm? Do the right things and do things right. Uh, don't worry. Don't worry if you are able to create impacts in your family, in your society, in a big setup across the world. Just do what you are called upon to do, and if it has to happen, it will happen in your lifetime. If it has to happen, it will happen much later. But if you are not true to that path, if you are not true to the process, if your process is not clean, if there's something, कुछ तो उसमें एक बदबू है स्वार्थ की या कुछ उसमें से आ जाता है, वो एक बदबू आ जाती है, तो फिर इट वोंट हैपन. या फिर तो स्केल छोड़ो, इवन इफ यू डू एट स्केल, it might be there temporary, but it is not going to last. And we have seen so many institutions not surviving because something was fundamentally not right. How many institutions survive for even 100 years? They don't. How many civilizations survive? They don't. Probably they survive a few thousand years, but eventually they don't. Something is not right in that, right? Just do things right at your individual level. And if I do it right and you do it right, and then we build a community of people who do it right, who believe in that, that's all it takes. Never doubt that a small group of committed people who are very concerned can change the world. In fact, that's the only thing that has changed the world. That's Margaret Mead. That's not me saying it. So I think individual change is paramount. Nothing can substitute individual change.
And what I'm drawing from that, as you say it, is that scale can perhaps be an outcome, and maybe an outcome over eons of time. It can't quite be the objective, right? We are chasing the means instead of the end if you're doing that.
And you cannot control the outcome, can you? Nahi control kar sakte ho. I just don't have any control. So if somebody asks me, what is your measure of success for the leadership school that you are planning? Frankly speaking, hand on heart, I don't have an answer. I don't know what will be the measure. If I can be very smart and intellectually dishonest and say that, okay, we'll take X number of people to parliament, we'll create so many leaders, it will be intellectually dishonest of me to say that. I don't know. We don't have those answers. All we know is that we can work on the process for the time those fellows are with us, and hope that they find their own pathways. That's all that we can hope for.
I noticed we're past our time, but of course it's a very enjoyable conversation, and I also see people coming in with questions, and I do want to address some of them. Jayesh Jain asking about how do you apply the Neti principle in leadership, and also that tribals always hesitate to assume leadership at community levels, and how would you want to speak to that?
Jayesh, the tribals, they don't believe in individual leadership. Because of their strong sense of community, it's always leadership at a collective level. It's a collective which is so important. I know Jayesh, and he knows this better than most people, about the example of Gadchiroli, Mendaleka, and how the people at Mendaleka have truly demonstrated collective leadership. That's really the tribal ethos. That's really the tribal way of life. It's never, the individual is not important. The individual is subsumed in the community. So it's the community always that is important. So I don't think the fact that they've hesitated to assume leadership is actually a positive thing. It's not something that I would hold against them. Yeah. So they, in a way, it's not that they are not leaders of society. They are true leaders because they value every voice. They value every, not just every human being. They even value the animals in their ecosystem. I know of a tradition in Jharkhand called Sendra. It's like an annual hunting thing where they would go on a hunt. Nowadays, of course, it's a very sort of a symbolic hunt that they go on. But even earlier, even now, they would probably hunt down a rabbit or a small mammal. But in the past, when they would hunt, they would apportion portions of the kill for everyone in the community, including the hunting dogs. The hunting dog would also get his share. Yeah. So it's everyone together. That's the beauty of tribal communities. I think Arun is talking. He's ascribing some words to me, but they are not my words. This is what Gandhi said: "Live simply so that others could simply live." Thank you for reminding me this, Arun. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's beautiful and that's so profound.
Yeah. And it also seems like, in that hesitation that you spoke about of tribal leaders, there seems to be leadership in that hesitation, right? That really staunch belief that what's good for the hive is good for the bee, and an
Yes,
implicit trust in that sense of community.
I am because you are. I am
Yeah.
because we are.
Yeah. And yeah, I suppose the prayer at this moment is really for each of us to touch that knowing. And I'm sure all of us have it as a knowing deep within us. It's just that we've perhaps been, our minds have perhaps been too colonized to believe that there needs to be that one leader leading the masses, and that's something we need to outgrow as we touch our own leadership.
And Rukmini, more and more young people these days are, I think, beginning to access that because there's so much of disillusionment and a realization that our actions, our lifestyles, our attitudes, modern society, and all the thing that it keeps throwing at us is not helping. It's only making matters worse. So there is a disillusionment, and hence there's a demand for alternatives. And it's just about showing that these alternatives are possible. And yeah, so I think it's very much possible.
Yeah, I join you in that trust as well. So I don't want to keep you too long, but one final question. What would be one thing that needs to shift in each of us listening to this in order for leadership as we need it now to emerge? अगर कोई एक चीज है जो हम अपने आप में शिफ्ट कर पाए ताकि एक नई लीडरशिप emerge ho, what would that be?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I would also like our listeners to also respond. I would say if it is one thing that I need to do and practice, and maybe each one of us can do that, is A, to just listen to what my inner being tells me to. Just be connected to that and have the courage and B, the humility, because it also needs humility, the courage to do something and the humility to accept that maybe I was wrong. Yeah. So I can tell you a beautiful thing because of this corona. My sister, she's been fasting along, and in fact she's been fasting twice a week, and not just from 6 to 6. She just fasts the whole day. And in that moment of fasting, in that moment of contemplation, she realized that she just needs to say sorry to so many people and she just messaged people, picked up the phone, and with the school friends and family members and professional colleagues and with so many people, she just apologized to so many of them. And I thought it is just beautiful. It needs A, courage, and it B, needs humility to be able to say, I am sorry, I was wrong. And the world will be a truly better place if we come from that space of courage and humility, which comes from listening to that inner voice. I think इतना कर दे, यही तो बहुत मुश्किल है. अगर हम इतना कर दे तो दुनिया बहुत सुंदर हो जाएगी. Seriously.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, and thank you for that. And I was also touched by that moment of pause between my question and your answer. And to me, that's another aspect of leadership we need to learn, in terms of learning to hold silence so that we can listen to what is emerging. So thank you for embodying that for us.
Thank you. Wonderful talking to you. I don't think without you this would not have been possible, because you were just so compassionate as a host, as an interviewer. And I remember I was a journalist earlier. I was a very impatient journalist, and most journalists are impatient, because they want the interviewer to answer what they want to hear. So thank you for being very, very considerate and compassionate. Thank you.
Thank you. On the one hand, I'm grateful I'm not trained as a journalist, but absolute pleasure having you here, Viren. And thank you for sharing all that you did. We did not respond to quite a few of the comments on Facebook, but between Viren and me, we will attempt to respond to the comments in a little while. And also for those of us who had to drop off due to network issues, we will repost the video on our YouTube channel and share it on our timeline. So please do access it and reach out to either of us from there. So thank you so much. And thanks, Viren. And we will continue the Emergent Leadership series with other speakers going forward. So if you know of people that are standing up in their own leadership that you see around you, or if you believe you would like to contribute to this conversation, please do get in touch, and it'll be lovely to host you on this chat as well. So thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day, evening, night, Ed. Thank you.